You went out hunting and somebody got hurt and you didn't know what to do. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Arch Talk 101. And as you probably figured out, we're going to be talking about hunter safety and first aid. What can you do if somebody gets injured? You know, hunting can provide many opportunities and types of injuries. Being prepared is your best defense against disabling injuries or even life-threatening accidents. Knowing some basic first aid and using common sense when in the wild can save both life and limb. One of the things that is good to know, whether you're hunting or anyplace else, is CPR. If you don't know CPR, you might want to learn it. You can call your local hospital, EMS, fire department to find out when and where you can attend community CPR classes. Sometimes they might be free or small cost, but the price to you pay for that would be nothing compared to saving somebody's life. You never know when you may need to perform CPR on a friend, family member, or even a stranger. A few hours of your time could save life someday. Many CPR classes offer basic first aid classes as well. You'll want to check with your local provider, whoever you're going to get your CPR class, and see if this option is available before registering for the class. Safety rules during a crisis. If something happens, you need to have some basic ideas. Think about it, plan it, talk about it, rehearse it prior to then. And the first rule of safety during a crisis may sound kind of selfish, but it's important. Just like the airlines say, put your mask on first before anybody else. You want to take care of yourself first. Check the scene of an accident for unsafe conditions. Make sure the area is safe for yourself and bystanders before beginning first aid. You want to make sure you're safe. You don't want to become part of the problem when the emergency shows up. The reason behind this rule is that you become injured or incapacitated, you can't help anyone else. If you become injured, rescue workers arriving on the scene will then have you as an added victim to care for. So make sure that you're safe. Seconds make a big difference in a crisis, but take a few beforehand to ensure that you will be able to provide help that is needed. Once again, take care of yourself first. Make sure that you have what you need so that you're safe. Then you can provide care for somebody else. Now, your basic first aid, healthcare personnel is taught the ABCs of first aid: airway, breathing, circulation. Now, your first concern is whether an accident victim has clear airway. If the mouth or throat is blocked by blood, water, objects, tend to this matter first. If the airway is blocked, they're not going to be able to breathe, which is the second part. Next, you want to see if the victim is breathing or is in danger of ceasing to breathe. You want to check all that out. The brain and vital organs cannot last long without oxygen, providing rescue breathing if necessary. So if they can't breathe on their own, you might need to provide it for them. So take a look at that. Then check for the heart rate. You check your heart rate. See if you have a heartbeat. If any injuries, maybe seep in blood or anything else, apply pressure to the areas that are bleeding with a clean cloth if possible. The important thing is to first stop the bleeding. If possible, make sure it's a clean cloth. Don't use a dirty one. That's just going to contaminate the area. But use whatever it takes to get it stopped. Don't be afraid to press hard. If there are others present who are able to assist you, ask them to help in applying pressure to a wound. If the bleeding is profuse, then you want to look at the wound. Is it located on arm or leg? You might be able to use your belt or a section of a rope to wrap around the limb to secure it tightly to restrict blood flow to the injured area and slow the bleeding. This is called a tourniquet. Now, remember, the tourniquet, if not applied correctly, can cause damage as well. So you want to make sure in your first aid training, you have the proper training on how to put a tourniquet on. If not, you're going to have to do the best you can and make sure that when the first aid arrives, you let them know what you've done and what they can take care of it. You always want to call for help. That's the big thing is you aren't going to be able to take care of it all yourself because you're going to have trouble transporting them or control them, and they do need proper medical treatment. After you have controlled breathing and provided uh, initial round of CPR, call for help and continue CPR until rescue workers arrive. Performing CPR can be exhausting. If others are available to help, perform a two-person CPR or trade-off task frequently to prevent, you from becoming exhausted. There again, if the other person is not trained, you're going to have to use them however they can. You're going to have to instruct them what you want them to do. If you or another hunter falls from a tree stand, we had talk about this a while back on tree stand safety. That's where a lot of your bow hunters are going to get injured is falling from the tree stand. If they're from an elevated area on a platform or anything like that, and it's elevated. The first thing you do not move them until you've checked to see if there's no spinal injuries. If you just turn them over and they have a spinal injury, you can make that a permanent injury instead of maybe just something that's inconvenient for several months. Now, moving a person who has a spinal injury can cause the shattered bones to cut through the spinal cord and result in paralysis. That's where you don't want to move them because that's what can happen. Ask the fall victim to move their fingers and toes only. Don't try and move the whole body. Just can they move their fingers and can they move their toes? That's a good sign if they can do that they still have function of those, but that don't mean you can just hurry up and move them. If they're unable to, now then for sure they have a spinal injury, and you have to have special care in moving that person, because there is an injury. So you have to make sure it's immobilized. At that point, you might want to take and make sure, they don't move, they stay calm. And when help arrives, professional help, the EMTs, they're going to know exactly how to treat this person. When they get on the scene, say, okay, they can't move their toes or their fingers or whatever it is. And that'll let them know about, where the injury could be, and they'll know how to handle it. Now, if they're bleeding profusely, where, it's got something that it'll just stop on their own, leave them in the position they're in and get help. You're going to have to try and control that bleeding without moving them. So that's what you want to take a look at. Now, if they can move their fingers and toes, now this is a point where you don't suspect the spinal injury, but there could still be one. So you want to gently turn them over onto their back, if they're not already on that position. If that position, great, because you don't have to move them. Now, you want to turn them as if they were a log, which means keep the head, the legs, the torso all lined stiff as you roll them. That way, if there is an injury, you're keeping it aligned. If there is a crack in the spine or something, you want to make sure that moves as one big unit, not two separate ones. This will prevent any compression on the spinal cord should the vertebrae, protected and the spinal cord be compromised. So that's what you want to make sure is you don't cause an injury by trying to help them with injuries they do have. Some falls and spinal injuries that affect the neck area can also result in a person not being able to breathe on their own. So if this happens, you must provide rescue breathing for them until help arrives. Now, once again, once you start help, you need to keep doing it until help arrives. Using firearm safety and common sense, like avoiding aggressive animals, go a long way to preventing hunting accidents. You want to know what's in the area. Educate yourself and hunt with others. Always tell someone where you will be hunting and when you will return. Keep safe in the woods. It's everyone's responsibility. For sure, you do your part. Now, once again, I'm not a medical professional, so this is just stuff I've learned in courses I've taken. I've taken some first aid courses and CPR and a lot of those things. But this is something that you need to think about. What are you going to do if you get hurt or somebody gets hurt? How can you help them? If you haven't had any training at all, then you may not know what to do. So you want to make sure that you get through looking at what are the possibilities and prepare for them. Don't expect something's going to happen. Don't dwell on what's going to happen. Just have that prepared in the back of your mind. Plan on, everything going just fine. But when something does go wrong, you want to be prepared. You want to have some idea of what's going on. One of the things you want to do is when you're out hunting is want to make sure that you have the proper training on the equipment you're using. Now, this being an archery channel, mostly focusing on archery, you want to make sure you know your equipment, know how to use it correctly. Use it. You shooting a bow, with improper technique or form, can cause problems. You can, wrong grip, you can be turning, and next thing you know, you derail the string, and now you get slapped on there. You can have an injury that way that you might need to take care of. One of the things to do is make sure you check out your equipment. And one of the ways that you can make sure that you have your equipment checked out is join the Archer Talk 101 Facebook group. There we have archery instructors as well as bow techs in there that can take a look at your situation, give you ideas and suggestions on what you can do to fix a problem or solve a problem that you're having. The other thing you can do is get yourself some coaching so you know how to shoot your best, so you can make that good shot. And I offer a free 15-minute consultation call to anybody that would like to see if coaching might be for them. I have a link in the description on here below that was give you a form to fill out to apply for that 15-minute consultation call to see if coaching might be for you. It might be, it might not. We won't know. We'll get on that free 15-minute call and we'll find out. The other place you can get some information is on archtalk101.com. That website has a lot of information out there as well. If I review a product, there'll be a review out there for it. If I have links to the products where you can get them, I'll put those in there. At times I'll have those. But that's the three main sources that you can go to for that. Now, if you want to look for first aid classes, go to your local fire department and say, hey, I'm interested in learning more about first aid, CPR, and talk to them. Go to the hospital and find out, or call your local, first aid areas. Any place that handles, first aid products. If you have some place that focuses on first aid supplies, go to them and ask them. There are a lot of places you can go out and look for places to get your supplies, because you should really have some supplies with you. When I go hunting, I do carry a basic first aid kit. You're out hunting, it's not unusual to get a cut or a scrape, and it's easy just to throw a band-aid on it, keep it clean. Just the basic first aid kit is there. Don't have to be great, big, massive one trauma kit or anything, but if you can carry one of those even be better, because now you're prepared for any situation. Whether it be a scratch that you want to get covered up, or something major where it's a bigger cut, that I'll need to be prepared for that. So once again, my name is Roy Canterbury, and I have been your host today on Archer Talk 101, and we'll see you next week.